Roberta Alexander, I'm going to start by introducing Roberta, and then she's going to introduce our guest of honor, Big Man. But Roberta is nothing to laugh at herself, other than just having Colin as a son. She did some other things in her life, including being instrumental in the Black Panther Party in Oakland. While she was there for a very short time, she was very impactful. And this is why I think she was so impactful, is she understood that you need to have vision, but you got to also do the work, right? You got to put in the work. And that's why we've brought Big Man here today, too, because there's lots of people that claim the vision of Black Panthers, but this is a man who really made sure the work happened. And Roberta is also such a well-respected elder in our own community, and a lot of a great educator who did wonderful things at City College campus, and a good friend of Big Man's, and that's why we're able to have him here today. So I'm going to let the more important people talk now, but can we just welcome them and
Thank you very much. That was a very nice introduction. I'd like to just say before we get started that since we don't have a mic, if you're having any difficulty at all, don't be shy about pulling closer to us, because I don't know how well we're going to be able to project. Like the back of the room. Maybe we should just go ahead and... Just to give you a little background about me and Big Man, I've known Big Man for 47 years, since 1969 when I was in the party. And Big Man is one of the founding members of the Black Panther Party, which first formed in 1967. In the party, he filled several roles, several leadership roles, just short of being the guys who got the glory, you know, or the folks who wrote the autobiographies that were self-serving, excuse me, but autobiographies and memoirs, there's different kinds, and some of them are self-serving. If you get an opportunity to read Big Man's book, he tells the story in an authentic way, and his story is about serving the people and serving the Black community, and all of the things that the Panthers as a group did in that period. So I got to know him because they found out right away when I started volunteering that I could type fast. So I was put on a newspaper, and Big Man was the editor. He was the first editor of the Black Panther Newspaper. And in addition to that, he's had a lot of titles within the party, including, let me get some of these straight, Deputy Minister of Information, a member of the Central Committee, coordinator of national and international support committees, and a Black Panther Party spokesman. And in that capacity, he didn't just go around and give speeches. He did plenty of that. But he was working every day, 12 to 14 hours, reading everything that he could possibly read from all over to figure out what needs to go into the paper, helping in the day-to-day things. And something that you should understand, Black Panther Party was not a part-time involvement or commitment. Okay, it was pretty much a full-time commitment. And Big Man was one of our leaders who was right there with us with the rank and file for the long hours that we put in while we were in the party. That is the main thing I want to tell you about Big Man. Those of you who've had a chance to read his memoir, you have some more super interesting information about many of the things that he did, but in no way includes everything that he did. Or let's just face it, Big Man tells the story how it is. He doesn't tell the story to toot his own horn, or to say, I was in the middle of everything, and I did everything, and I thought about everything. He was a worker. He was a thoughtful person in the party, and he was one of the people who kept the party together when we were under incredible attack with the programs with COINTELPRO. The Panthers were getting murdered and put into prison and also put on these long trials for which a lot of the energy in the party got sapped in order to do the defense work. And Big Man was the guy who was doing a lot of that work, both the organizing, the going to the rallies, speaking at the rallies, talking to the lawyers, figuring out how to interface with the press, all levels of support work. Among other things, Big Man was also in the negotiating team at the Attica revolt in 1971, the penitentiary in New York in 1971, where prisoners, was mostly black and Latino prisoners, got together to make some demands for humane conditions in the prison. Sound familiar? Overcrowding in the prison. Some specific examples is they were allowed to shower once a week, and they had one roll of toilet paper for a month. That was just some small things, not to mention the degrading conditions, the arbitrary punishment, and the constant humiliation that they were faced with. It was mostly black and Latino prisoners at that time, and they did get together in this revolt. And it took place that they took hostages of some of the guards, and they had some demands, and Big Man and Bobby Seale were asked to come help with the negotiation to solve the problem. Outcome was, even though the negotiations were in progress, the outcome was Governor Rockefeller, without even visiting, without even finding out the status of the negotiations, sent in troops with shotguns and machine guns, and 43 people died on the 5th day of the revolt. And of those 43, 39 died by bullet wounds, which only came from the officers and the troops that were brought in from the outside to quell it. Of course, they started with tear gas. It's written up even by the State of New York Commission to research what had happened. It's a truth-finding commission appointed by the State of New York as the bloodiest massacre in the United States since the Civil War and the Indian massacres of the 19th century. So it was a major historical moment. So without going too much farther with this introduction, I think I'm going to just let you know what our 10-point program, 10-point platform, 10 points, thank you. We've worked in tandem before, especially in Japan. You should have seen us. All right. So the Panther platform is, and I'm going to ask Pillars perhaps to put on your website. You know, maybe there could be a historical, a website of some historical things, and perhaps the New York Commission report on Attica, because it reads like today. Another example was that at that time, 11 out of 12 inmates were there after having done a plea bargain. You know, they talk about the justice system and the prison system as being a billion-dollar business, even in the official report. Needs to have community reform, justice system reform, and prison reform, because one without the other just none of it works. Okay, our 10-point program is, we want freedom, we want power to determine the destiny of our black and oppressed communities, to have self-control within our communities. We want full employment for our people, and these all have more explanation, but I don't want to take too much time. We want full employment for our people. We want an end to the robbery by the capitalists of our black and oppressed communities. We want decent housing fit for the shelter of human beings. We want decent education for our people that exposes the true nature of American society. We want education that teaches us our true history and our role in present-day society. We want completely free health care for all black and oppressed peoples. We want an immediate end to police brutality and murder of black people, other people of color, and all oppressed peoples inside the United States. We want an immediate end to all wars of aggression. We want freedom for all black and oppressed people now held in the United States, federal, state, county, city, and military prisons and jails. We want trials by a jury of peers for all persons charged with so-called crimes under the laws of this country. And finally, we want land, bread, housing, education, clothing, justice, peace, and people's community control of modern technology. So I think you can see that program is pretty tidy, huh? It pretty much covers a lot of the issues, and we're still facing those issues today. Okay, without any further ado, it is my honor to welcome you, to thank Pillars of the Community for setting up this event. I think it's an important event. I want to thank you for coming, but I also want to congratulate you for coming, because this is history that we're going to be witnessing today, to hear a big man's story, all of the things that he has done and contributed. Okay? If you give a hand for my friend.
Well, thank you all for coming. It's been my pleasure to meet you. And I've been wanting to get to San Diego for a long time, because back in the day, as they say, we had a chapter here, and members of our party faced repression and brutality just like we did everywhere in the country. And we lost two brothers here. One was Sylvester Bell, and what was the other guy's name?
John Savage.
Yeah, John Savage. And they were killed early on when the party first got organized. And we realized that they were going after everybody. And basically because of the work that we were doing. And we fought tremendous odds, not only against the police, but against the news media that had the people in a frame of mind that it was necessary to wipe the Panthers out. J. Edgar Hoover called us, a hate group and stuff like that. And also down here you had a breakfast program provided by facilities provided by a church. And the FBI went after the ministers that allowed the Panthers to feed hungry children in the church. And one minister got transferred out because the government put pressure on the archdiocese or the hierarchy of the church for him letting us use the facility just to feed hungry kids. There was no hate in that. The only hate in that was coming from the government. But anyway, that was some of the things that went on right here in your own community. So when Roberta made me aware of the organization that you have, Pillars of the Community, I was really thrilled to hear that. It let me know that the FBI and J. Edgar Hoover and whoever did not kill the enthusiasm for people to struggle against oppression and to be free. And so I was very happy to be invited and to come here. Anyway, a little bit about the way the Black Panther Party started. We were just young, Bobby Seale and myself and others. We were students at City College in Oakland. And we were beginning to study, beginning to become aware of our heritage and stuff like that. So we began to grow the afro and wear the African clothing and to learn a little bit about Swahili. I didn't learn anything. But anyway, that sort of thing. We became aware of ourselves, you might say. And so we began to focus in on the repression that we faced and wondered, what can we do about this? And we started reading material like Mao Zedong's Red Book. And he said things in there like political power grows out of the barrel of a gun. And we took that literally because every time we wanted to do something that the government didn't like, they would come up with guns and point them at us and shoot us. And so we say, well, we can have some of that political power. Let's go buy some guns, because we all come from a background of hunting for your food, so we were familiar with guns. And so we decided that if we patrolled the police and presented a presence, there wouldn't be any brutality. And that we researched the laws that said that we could carry a weapon as long as it was not concealed and it did not have a bullet in the chamber. So we would get in our cars and we would ride around, and we see the police stop somebody. We would get out with our gun and stand at the legal distance and observe these so-called officers of the law in the performance of their duty. And of course, they didn't like that. But, they'd say, "Oh, what are you doing with those guns? What are you doing with your guns?" And we talk back to them, let me see that gun. I ain't letting you see nothing. This is my gun, and you ain't getting it. And then we would tell the person that's been accosted by the police, go ahead and take the arrest. Don't resist, and we're going to follow you down to the jail, and we're going to bail you out. And people want to know, what kind of people are these? And we would do that. And as a result, these people get out of jail, and they come around the Panther office and say, well, you guys want to know a little bit about what you're about. And that way we began to recruit people into the organization. These were mostly street people or people that didn't have a job, that sit on the corner and play checkers or whatever. And they come into the party and we give them something to do. We would tell them we got to go out and get donations to feed our program. We got to circulate petitions because we want community control of police, and we need you to go out and get signatures. And we constantly kept people busy. These young people with no jobs and no future or whatever. And this is the way that the party built. And in the meantime, we had to mold or remold their way of thinking. Once again, going back to the Little Red Book, most of these guys didn't have any discipline, and they were angry, and they wanted to strike out and stuff. And we had to teach them that you did not steal from the people, not even a needle or a piece of thread, as the Red Book said. Respect women. Do not disrespect women. Work with people so that you know their toil, what they're going through. You get an understanding of what people are about. And so we had to transform them from the street mentality and to teach them some universal politics, if you will. And so we had political education classes on a regular basis. where we forced them to come and attend the classes if they wanted to remain a member of the Black Panther Party. And so we began to teach them. But, the younger brothers, as I said, they had a lot of anger. They want a gun. They want to go out and confront the police. And we said, no, you're going to sit down, you're going to learn something, and we're going to get you up in the morning. We have a free breakfast program. We're going to teach you how to cook eggs, grits, bacon, and toast, and serve hot chocolates to these children on their way to school. Because we believe that education and learning go hand in hand with nutrition. And so our breakfast program was born, and it spread all across the country. As a matter of fact, it was it inspired Richard Nixon and the government to start a program for breakfast, free breakfasts and free lunches in school. And we said, that's fine, that's all well and good. Why didn't they do it in the first place? And they got pissed off because we showed them up. We said, we can feed 200,000 people breakfast every morning with our donations, the money out of our pockets, whatever. Why can't the government do something with all the resources that they have? And so this put the spotlight on us and put a target on our back because they didn't like that. You talk about hate. The hate came from them. We didn't hate anybody. We told them we hate what you do to us. We don't hate you because of your race, the color of your skin. We hate what you're doing to us. And that's what our self-defense comes into play, because we will defend ourselves. And so these kids that wanted to, were all hot to handle a gun and everything, we, myself and Richard Aoki and Bobby Steele, we're all veterans. So we knew how to handle weapons. We knew how to break them down and put them back together. And we told these kids, if you want to handle a gun, you're going to learn the proper way to use it, and when and how to use it. And in the meantime, that is not the focus of what you're going to do. And, I just got to admit, some kids did spontaneous things and took guns and went out and confronted the police on their own. And as a result, we had kids killed. And that was not what we intended at all. But once again, the media got into the play and said the Panthers shooting it out with the cops or shot at the cops. But this was a learning experience and a teaching experience. We started off, we considered ourselves, well, like I said, we listened to the speeches of Malcolm X, and we embraced black nationalist point of view. But then as we began to learn and study, we realized that not only black people were being oppressed, but so were the Latino community, the Puerto Ricans, poor white people from Appalachia. We all were being exploited and mistreated by the government. And so we formed solidarity with all these groups, the American Indians. Everybody was being exploited, and what we tried to do was develop a united front against fascism. So people that wanted to join the Black Panther Party, white people, whatever, we say, we're a black organization. It's not a racist organization, but we got to keep this in our community. You go to the Asian community. You take these principles to your community and you organize around it in your community. And whenever we confront these problems, we'll present a united front. we'll be together on that. Want to stop the war? No problem. We will join you in that effort. But at the same time, we want you to come in our community and help stop the war against black people in the black community. And so we formed coalition. And this is another thing that the government didn't like, because they had a method of pitting one group against the other. There are these guys are black racists, they hate white people and all of that. And we said, no, we're not about that. What we're about is stopping what you're doing to us. And we will not fight racism with more racism, because that's your bag. We will fight racism with solidarity. And we want to come at you from all fronts, from all the communities, because everybody's being exploited, miseducated, uneducated, unemployed, and all of these ills. And we don't have any time to play racist games. Survival programs, as we begin to call them, begin to spread across the country and adopted by all of these groups. I don't know if I can call them all. We had so many. We had what we call a SAFE program. That's Seniors Against a Fearful Environment. And that meant when senior citizens got their checks on the first of the month, and needed to go to the doctor, needed to go to the bank or whatever, they were set upon by predators who take their money and abuse them. So we set up a program where we would drive them or escort them wherever they needed to go. And with the Panthers guiding them or being with them, they were not set upon by anybody, because they know that they had some problems coming if they did. So we dealt with that. We had a free transportation to prisons, because what the system did was put people in far-off penitentiaries where their families couldn't visit them. So we got a bus, and we would bus people to the prison so that they could visit their loved ones. We had free medical clinics, because people were not being treated because they didn't have an insurance, this or that. So we began to talk to people in the medical profession and ask them if they would volunteer a few hours of their time a week or whatever to help care for people in the community that need preventative medical care. A lot of people felt that kids couldn't get educated, or they were kicked out of school for whatever reason. So we started what we call Liberation School. We acquired a complex where we had teachers. Some people, former professional teachers, came in and taught these children in a regular school, and they didn't have to put up with the system. And we taught and utilized methods of learning that were beneficial. Didn't have to go through all the bureaucracy. You can't do this, you can't do that. The president doesn't like this, doesn't like that. All that stuff we eliminated. We focused in on teaching the kids, caring for their needs, feeding them, or whatever they needed. So the Liberation School was one of the programs. We had people volunteer to do plumbing in the community. People had skills, and a person in the community have a problem with plumbing. They couldn't afford a plumber, so we had a crew of people who knew how to do that stuff. And they would go and take care of the problem, free of charge. sickle cell anemia is a medical problem that's really acute to people of color, and there was nobody, there wasn't much known about it. But we researched it, and we began a campaign to get medical professionals to help us deal with this sickle cell anemia. And Nixon and his administration caught wind of that because we would criticize them for giving money to this, that, and the other, and not even mention sickle cell. But before you know it, Nixon appropriate some money to sickle cell, and he's running for office, his campaign, and crap like that. But he did get some support, even though it wasn't really something that they wanted to do. We got involved with people in the community because a lot of the places that people lived in, the housing, was painted with lead-based paint, and their children would get sick and have all kinds of ailments, and they didn't know why. And so we researched that and found out it was lead paint. And so we began to organize the people that lived in this housing to come up with rent strikes. That landlord doesn't repaint this place, doesn't make it right, we ain't paying him the rent. And so we had people involved in rent strikes. We participated in the farm worker strikes. We put people on the picket line along with the people that Cesar Chavez had organized. We were right there supporting that. They saw the party organizing all the people in the community and drawing people together from all races and whatever. And so that presented a threat to them. And so J. Edgar Hoover, who was Nixon's right-hand man, decided that we should not exist. And so they started a campaign. You know, he single-handedly used his organization to try to destroy the Black Panther Party. And they did everything from writing letters from one organization, like you had the US organization down here, and more than 10 letters to them from the Panthers to create friction between the two organizations. They put in infiltrators who would come into the party, claim they wanted to work and everything, and then they would get young people and tell them, let's go out and rob a gas station, crap like that. You know, and they'd say, you know, Panthers did this, Panthers did that. They would blow up houses, falsely arrest people. And we got brothers in jail in Des Moines, Ohio, and Des Moines, Iowa. We got Mumia in Philadelphia. And these people have been in jail for 30, 40 years. And it's all from setups by the government. There was no crime other than, that's why we call them political prisoners. It's because they went against the government, and they they couldn't kill us all, so they decided to lock those of us up that they couldn't kill. And we had to fight that battle as well as keep the community informed about what was really going on. So it was really a job to deal with all of that. And one of my jobs was to crisscross the country whenever we had our members busted and in prison. The one thing that we didn't believe in is allowing our party members to languish in jail. Not if we could get them out with money, legal assistance, or whatever it took. Because first of all, we needed them to do the work. And secondly, we knew that in prison they stand a great chance of not coming out alive. So, go from Denver to LA to whatever to assist attorneys in legal matters to try to get these brothers and sisters set free. In LA, we had a 4-hour gun battle with the police, and we had Geronimo Pratt, who was a decorated Vietnam veteran, come out and he joined the party. And through his strategic efforts, they were able to hold off the LA police for 4 or 6 hours or something like that. And none of the party members got killed. And for that, they went after Geronimo. They framed him up for supposedly killing some white people on a tennis court, when at the time he was in Oakland at a Panther meeting. And that, they didn't care. They locked him up for 27 years until this lawyer was famous for the old days case, Johnny Cochran, took his case and proved that the government fabricated all that stuff and got Geronimo set free. But all these kinds of things, just, the stuff that you had to put up with and had to learn a way, find ways of coping with it without losing your mind, going off the deep end, killing somebody that you really like to kill. So, we had to teach and preach constantly to keep the party going. Eventually, it got infiltrated so bad that they got the East Coast, West Coast business going, where they told the people, the party members on the East Coast, that the West Coast was conspiring and all this kind of thing. And we didn't have the insight to bring members from the East and West together to sit down and figure it all out. There was too much turmoil going on at the time and mistrust and all that sort of thing, and it was part of really what caused the demise of the party, really. But, they didn't kill us all, they didn't lock us all up, because I, for one, survived, and I'm, able to talk about it and teach people about it. And we have people like Roberta, who's a distinguished professor. She went on to do some great things, to raise some families. So Panthers are out there everywhere, doing things, become lawyers, professors, and for the most part, I believe that they still have Panther philosophy in their soul. And they teach individuals how to make it, how to survive, what to look for, what to sidestep. So we're all over the place still, so they couldn't kill us. They couldn't kill that crazy group of people that put together something that, they couldn't deal with. So it took a great determination to stick with it, to take what they threw at us, and not let it take us down, you know. So
yeah, I think that's pretty good. And in addition to this period of attack, you got to imagine what it's like to not know. Is this an infiltrator I'm dealing with, or is this just some stupid young man? You know, and the paranoia that can be created, that was created by the COINTELPRO, because they're writing letters from us to the Panthers and from the Panthers to us, and the other organization didn't know that they were saying, we won't kill all you motherfuckers, and they don't even know that that letter was written. It's written by the FBI. You see, that's the thing. It's written. These provocative actions were taken by the FBI. That's not to say there weren't differences between the organizations, but probably not to the extent that we would be killing one another. There were murders, outright murders. Fred Hampton in Chicago was murdered. And he was a leader who was bringing gang members together. He was articulate, he was smart, and they targeted him, and they drugged him and his family, and they shot inside the apartment until everybody inside, except for one person, his wife, who was pregnant at the time, was dead. They couldn't even wake up, because an infiltrator had manipulated the whole situation, given how the apartment is organized and who's going to be sleeping where, and all the bullet holes were going in, not out of the apartment. And Panthers had tours of these places where this kind of stuff had taken place to prove that it had taken place. So I think that gives you an idea. We want to keep some time for conversation and discussion, questions for people to contribute, experiences that are going on here. You know, because Panthers got attention for a reason, people. One, they were creative. Two, they knew the law. And they worked. We worked. And all this creativity in terms of how to support the community helped us in turn get community support. That's what made it work. But the little bit of being, you know, like being able to get attention of the media also turned against us. Okay, it turned against the party, and it was used against the party. So, are there questions or comments, or somebody want to contribute something about what you're working on?
Well, I think that you have a genesis of organizing right here. The people involved with the pull of the community and their supporters, because you can't really have a mass organizing just like that, because you got so many people with so many different problems, and so you got to start with where you're at. The way I see it, because we started with four members, I guess it was, in City College in Oakland, and from there we began to educate the community. We began to reach out to the community to let them know about our 10-point platform and program. When we first drew it up, it was something that we thought was good and envisioned, but we took it to the community and said, hey, what do you think about this point here? Full employment for our people. Do you agree with that? Yeah. You know, free health care for people in the community. And the community said, yeah. So we began to reach out and get their input, ask for their support. And in the meantime, we did what we could to show them that we were for real, that we had their interests at heart. And one of the things, like I said, going down to the jail, bailing out people that weren't our family, that we didn't know, except for knowing them on the street. But this had an effect on them, because people said, these guys are crazy. They have our interests at heart. They got these guns and they're willing to use them. I've seen them stand up against the police. And so, you know, that was the time, at that time, I wouldn't say do that now. But, you know, making an impact in some way, you know, feeding people.
Yeah. Well, something that I heard when Aaron Harvey spoke at City College was this whole gang documentation stuff. And Aaron made, why don't you say what you said about the communities, the Black and Latino community getting together at least on that one issue, just the one issue.
Well, the gang documentation, there's 9 criteria that if you meet at least 2, the police can document you as a gang member. And once you become documented as a gang member, then you can fall under laws like Pinnacle and 225, like me, Brandon Duncan, and a lot of other individuals went through. And you apply for like the gang enhancements and things like that. So there's 243,000 people statewide on this list. 67% are Latinos, 94% are men. And so it's just another way of them attacking the Black and brown communities to label them as something, and then it's easier to incarcerate and harder to get out. So.
And can you give us a couple of examples of those criteria? Because you only need to meet 2 of them to be on the list. If you're on the list, you can get arrested even if you're far away from a crime and haven't been involved ever in a gang. Can you give us a couple examples, Aaron?
Well, the criteria, one could be wearing gang dress. So any colors considered to be gang related, which is every color. Subject has, well, it says subject is known to have gang tattoos. So whatever they deem as gang related tattoos. Gang dress, frequenting gang areas. So we
your neighborhood.
Yeah. A lot of my police stops say we stopped him because he was leaving a known gang house. The address was my grandmother's house. So if you meet any 2 or 3 of those, then you know pretty much they can just arrest you.
To be fair, you said your grandmother's house was painted green.
Yeah. So yeah, things like that, just crazy things like that. It's just so broad. There's 3,700 Latinos documented as gang members in the county of San Diego, 1,700 blacks, 151 whites. There's no white gangs technically in San Diego County on paper. There's only Black, Latino, and Asian gangs.
Even though there is Ku Klux Klan.
They're not gangs. They're groups.
OG.
So I think that is one example where Black and Latinos have everything in common. Is this same kind of target?
Yeah, well, the key word for me is to organize. Organize the groups, organize the community to do pushback against it. And it's not easy because we're living up there in Sonoma County where there's a lot of rich wineries and people, there's not many black people up there. But when I got there, I started to stir up some shit. Because I'm looking at it and I cannot sit back and not see anything. Latino kids hang out on the block. They wear a ball cap of a certain color. They are picked up and designated as a gang member. And then you had the Highway Patrol and the Santa Rosa City cops arresting falsely arrested kids, and if they couldn't convict them of anything, then they would hold them for ICE and try to get them deported. You know, and I saw that as a great injustice because they would bust in people's houses and take parents and send them away across the country. And it's inhuman to have a kid come home from school and his parents are not there. So that was an injustice that's intolerable to me. And so we began to organize in Sebastopol, which is a little small town. They stopped cooperating with ICE because of community pressure. Community people protested and did petition work and stuff like that. And pretty soon Sebastopol said, we're not holding anybody for ICE anymore. If you got something to charge immigrants with, you pick them up and you deal with it. We're not holding anybody for you anymore. And so that was one step in the right direction there. But it's, you know, kind of an uphill battle because a lot of the Latino people were not publicly protesting anything because a lot of them don't have the papers or whatever. And they feel if they come out and speak up for themselves, that they will be, you know, deported. And I can understand that. But you have to, as I said, get together and organize and figure it out. You know, if something doesn't work, try something else. Primarily from donations. And some of us was able to have a job if we didn't get fired from it because they found out we were in an organization or something like that. Then we would contribute our salary to it. We had some people, as the party matured, we had people that understood what we were doing, and they came forth and made donations. People like Jane Fonda and Bert Snyder, the guy that produced the movie Easy Rider, and a lot of other wealthy people put some money in. They didn't make a lot of noise and publicity about it because they'd had problems if they did it, but they contributed because they realized the breakfast program was a viable program. And the educational program that we had was viable. The way that we got the big building complex for the school, we had people that had some money that shoved it under the table, and things like that, because there are a lot of people, if they know what you're doing and you're honest about it, they will step in and give you a hand. John Lennon, who was assassinated, beaten, he gave money. He loved the breakfast program, what we were doing. So, you know, just a day-to-day basis. We go to the grocery stores and ask that grocers donate to this program, and the authorities said we were intimidating people. The only intimidation comes was if you're doing business in my community, we got a program to deal with some of the ills in our community. You come in, make your money, take it back to the suburbs, and live nicely, and you don't contribute, then we are going to take our business elsewhere, where somebody will contribute to us. And they call that blackmail, or whatever they wanted to call it, the press. But that was only reasonable to us, you know. Well, it's educating people. Sometimes it's not very easy to do, but you have to constantly educate people to what's happening, and then you have to get to a point where somebody on your city council or whatever that is not cooperating or has no concern about the community, that organize the community and get people registered to vote and threaten them with removing them for office. That's the only thing that will move a lot of politicians to do the right thing. You got to put pressure on them, and you can only do that through a collective effort with people in the community. And it's pounding the pavement, knocking on doors, attending meetings, and organizing. That old word, organizing, is what you have to do. Because you got some people that will get their privilege and come to mind. People like, I think, Jesse Jackson. He might start out as a staunch believer in marching and civil rights and all of that. But he got his lump of money or whatever, his privilege, and he's in heaven. He died with the heaven. Reverend Al Sharpton, who jumped on a bunch of different issues and called himself a leader, but now he has a TV program and he's dressed real sharply, and I don't think he even goes into the community anymore. So, you got those people that are opportunistic, and, you just can't deal with them. You got to deal with the people that's out here struggling, trying to do something, and you get people of a like mind together and figure out what you're going to do and just go for it. Just do it. Don't be afraid of failure. As I said, it takes just determination that you're going to do it no matter what. And a lot of times that is contagious. People see you, out there struggling, even if it's by yourself, and they say, well, maybe I could do a little of this, maybe I could do a little of that. So you take that little bit, whatever they want to give. Like we approach people that say, well, I will come down and work in your breakfast program, but I will not go on the street with you with guns. So we can understand that, We had to teach a lot of our young people that went out and asked for donations. If a person said no, a grocery store, if we were asking for something, said no, we had to teach young people that you don't cuss them out. Just politely say, well, thank you, and go away. That to learn to respect people. A lot of the preachers, we call them bootlickers and this, that, and the other, and we had to teach the people in the organization that you don't do that. Because you got a lot of old people, even relatives and your mother and all these people go to church. And you got to respect that. And not abuse them or anything like that. You got to show some respect and some restraint and get the people to understand what you're doing. And you can't do that by pushing back or reacting. You just got to be cool and have staunch, quiet determination. Even when they think you quit, you're not really quitting. You make them think you quit.
Yeah, there's a lot of levels of leaders who are fearful. You know, I mean, some people are fearful to knock on the door, to explain a cause, to make a phone call. Some people are fearful on a campaign. A lot of people are fearful to go on a march. I don't know about the run. I'm not sure if that counts, but you know, people are fearful to take a stand. Then you got, I don't know what leaders you're talking about, but there are fearful leaders, and we got to push those people. If they're facing in the right direction, push them, because they need to know that it's not just them, that they are representing, and that there's a force behind them, that they're not just out there by themselves trying to do something progressive in wherever they may be.
No, I'm saying I didn't make it down here. I wanted to, because I was hoping, that while I was here, either see a community where the officers were, or meet some people that might still be around since then, because it's been 40 years or so, but still, I have an interest because I still get what they call post-traumatic stress when I think about those brothers who were killed here, as well as others all over the country. And so I have a keen interest in that still. I want to know what those brothers were like, what kind of work they did in the community. Those methods that, were utilized that back then, you can't do it now. We have to find other ways, because while the police are being militarized, they've been given more weapons, more means of killing people, and the laws are whatever they say the law is. So you have to figure out a different way to do it rather than to try to take that on head on, because they will kill you, I mean, before you get a chance to do anything. And I think that organizing people is the way, because we used to say they can't kill us all, not all at one time. So I think that you really got to figure out ways of dealing with stuff, because it's not only the physical thing. They got the laws against you. It's hard to find lawyers like we used to have. There are one or two that are emerging and willing to take on the system, but there are no Charles Gary, Jerry Lefkowitz around. People that we had anymore, but
half of us can't carry guns either. Now, most of us that's illegal for us.
I just want to make a comment. I'm hearing what I've heard pretty much all of my 77 years. We have these tremendous struggles, and we want to solve them. We want next week for this better world to be. And I think we just have to think in terms of, we will spend our lifetimes pursuing great things, and there'll be a lot of things that we won't see. And the struggle continues on. And when you take to the guns, you lose. Like you were saying, the government got you there. They'll blow up your whole goddamn neighborhood. It comes down to it.
The only, biggest weapon that I see is, once again, organizing and talking to people constantly. And that's the only way, is to keep the community organized in some way. Because you can't do it alone, but you can't give up. You can't give up on the community or on your people. They will might be slow to respond to you, but they see what's happening, and they really don't know how to deal with it. A lot of people out there in the community just bewildered. How do we deal with it? But I think people, the pillars of the community is a start in the community, and you got to just keep going.
Show who you are.
Yeah, developing a message. I think she answered her own question. She said developing a message of your own and getting that message out to counter that massive narrative that you're confronted with. You know, that's the, yeah, she knows how to do that. Okay, we just have another minute or two, and then we'll be around a little bit for individuals.
Well, I
Yes.
want to say what the brother was saying about the police. Well, there's ways that we can be aggressive without being in confrontation with the police or showing arms. Well, what I've done, what I've started to do now is whether you're black, white, Asian, it doesn't matter. If I see somebody being pulled over, I'm stopping. I'm getting out at a safe distance, and I'm just making myself noticeable so that now they know that there's somebody watching, so they have to take measures on doing everything correct. You can't and if you do overdo something, now I'm there as a witness. So I have no problem. You know, whether it be phones or being vocal, I have no problem standing up that way. That's what I feel like we all need to do within the community to let the people know that we care. Whether you're getting pulled over for doing something wrong, you're doing something wrong. I'm still going to be there though to make sure that you take those measures on doing things correct. So I feel like we all need to do that. Just so they don't now it's 9 cars being put up to one black and one Mexican, but if 9 cars like us pull up to those 9 cars, now they have to do what they need to do. So I feel like that's the aggression that we can't have towards the police.
And a new weapon is this. Because what the Panthers were doing was not so much blowing away the cops when they stopped somebody. They were witnessing and testifying.
Right.
You know what I mean? They had the witness, and that had the backup. And that's what they were able to do. And this is a tool. It seems like the ACLU's got something.
To Brother Curtis's point and the voices, there's a couple of things kind of that Pillars of the Community has been based on. And a lot of that is connected to, for example, Malcolm X saying, by any means necessary. And we feel strongly in that message, right? Justice by any means necessary. And we connect that with, I think, one of the sources where Malcolm Al-Hajj Malik al-Shabazz was able to derive that from, which is a saying in Islam that talks about if you see something being done wrong that you disagree with, that you should change it with your hands. If you cannot change it with your hands, then you should change it with your voice. And if you cannot change it with your voice, then you should at least feel bad about it. Connecting that to by any means necessary is an important point, because by any means necessary means by any means necessary. It doesn't meaning what does it take to actually have the result that is necessary. So if by arming yourselves in the streets and going after police, we believe that will end up in something actually happening, or are we able to think through that and see what would the results of that be? So the results of the Panthers doing that, even though, from my understanding, the black jackets and the berets and the kind of following the police was one small aspect of the Panthers. Look at the amount of U.S. force that was put and declared them the enemy, right, of the United States. So the organizing and the consistency that Big Man is speaking about and that my mom was speaking about, I think is the key, right? Getting together, thinking through these things. If we do this, what will the reaction be? If we stop something with our hands, I see a brother doing something I don't like, and I stopped him with my hand, what is the reaction going to be? Is it going to be him using his hands back and an escalation back and forth? Is me speaking to him going to be the better method? Or is the better method me, hey man, I see you doing something wrong, I'm going to feel real bad about that, and think and sit and see if we can figure out ways. But again, the organizing and the consistency and the opportunities to come together as a community, because I think this is a community first issue. One of the most powerful things about the Panthers is it was from the community for the community. And any allies and anybody that was willing to help and join in with that process was welcome. But it was community first. And so how can we come together as communities, talk about these issues, and figure out what are the means necessary in order to put a stop to the injustices that we see every day. So I don't know if we wanted to add anything else. In conclusion, I definitely want to thank everybody for coming out here, and especially Big Man for making and his wife Carol for